Hello and welcome back to the Orlando Adventures podcast. I'm your host Russ, and today's episode is the Everything Q&A one. So I love doing the Q&As. I absolutely love it. They're some of my favourite episodes to do. They really, really are. I enjoy putting the question out to all of you guys and getting you guys to kind of send questions in, and it still baffles me a little bit that people actually have questions they want to ask me, and I love it. I absolutely love it. They are some of my favourite Wednesday episodes to record. I mean, fairly obviously at this point, I think we're maybe 4 or 5 Q&A episodes in, so I quite clearly like a Q&A, but I genuinely do love it, and I love the creativity it gives all of you guys to come up with amazing questions for me. And I wanted to open this one up. This one basically got opened up to, you know what? If you can ask anything, then just go for it. And to be fair, you didn't all go for it as much as I thought you might. And the only reason why is probably because you're all really polite. I opened this to you go wild. And don't get me wrong, we've got some questions which I'm like, okay, all right, well, I've asked the question, so I've got to answer this now. But sometimes I'm like, some people are going to go for this. And they are a lot of fun. They absolutely are. So for everyone who submitted a question, thank you so much, because I really do appreciate it. And I'm excited. I'm excited to answer all of these questions for you. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. And my first question is from Sam McMaster. Sam McMaster, he was on the pod, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And what a guy as well, absolutely spot on. He was a great guest. I really enjoyed chatting with Sam in kind of person. And I talk to Sam quite frequently on Instagram as well. And he has sent me a question, and it's a keep update or close. We're going straight in with a keep update close. And it is based on my worst rides in Orlando. So anyone will know that about a week ago now, I did an episode called Worst Rides in Orlando. And, I picked what I deemed to be the worst ride in each of the 6 big parks in Orlando. And Sam has basically thrown it straight back at me and gone, you know what? You're going to dig these rides out. Well, I'm going to give you 3 of them. And you're basically now going to have to say you got a closed one as well. So cheers, Sam. So the 3 options he's given me are Na'vi River Journey, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Spaceship Earth. And this is tough. This is really tough because I don't want to. Realistically, I don't want to shut any of these, and they're not my favourite rides in Orlando. Let's be absolutely real. But does that mean I would want any of these to be shut? Well, no, I wouldn't. However, I'm going to annoy some people. It's going to happen. And this is going to blow some people's minds, but the one I keep is Na'vi River Journey. I'm keeping it as it is because in this example, this is the one ride that I go, you know what? It's probably the most complete ride of all of them. So, how can I possibly say to update it or to close it over either of the other 2? I can't do it. So Na'vi River Journey is staying. Update. I'm going to update Rock and Roller. And it needs an entirely new IP, and I will be absolutely real, it is not the Muppets. I'm sorry, people, but it's not. I would update it. I appreciate that it's not going to be Marvel or anything like that, but I would put any other franchise over this ride, honestly. And to be honest with you, maybe keeping the music theme is cool, but I think just bring it to the modern day is the way that I would go. And that's where I'm going to go for it. I'm going to update Rock and Roller, and this is wild. I'm going to close Spaceship Earth. What? God. Oh, God, I didn't think this was where this episode was going to go. I'm going to close Spaceship Earth. Obviously, we're not going to demolish the icon, but the ride itself, I reckon this might be one of the hardest keep update close I've ever done. And I've written some hard ones. This one is an absolute killer. Mainly because I don't want to upset people. But you know what? I've got to stick with it. I've got to stick with, in this example, I'd have to close Spaceship Earth, which feels baffling. But you know what? I'm going to stick with it. It is what it is. I apologise to everyone and we'll move on. Sam, it's a great question. Good man. I really appreciate it. On to the next one. So, next one is from A Brit Travels. So A Brit Travels, Lee, for anyone who doesn't know, has been on the podcast a few times at this point. We've had some brilliant episodes. We really, really have. And he has asked me... He's asked me a couple of questions, actually. He's asked me, what is my favourite film of all time? Favourite film of all time? This is a really close toss-up between two, but the one that always pips it for me, I mean, it's so obvious. It's Avengers Endgame. I can't look past it. And the second one is Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, I appreciate that they're both modern films as well, but like, they, for me, are just so good. And I appreciate that like people will be like, oh yeah, but it's not the best film ever. Like, that is not where I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the emotion it elicits, the culmination of characters, the bringing characters back, the finalization of a story. Like, all of these different things for me are what make these two films exceptional. But Endgame, just the fact that it does it on that scale is something else. And genuinely, this is what I'm so excited for with regards to the MCU and for Doomsday and for Secret Wars. Because if we get Battleworld, for anyone who knows what I'm talking about, if we get Battleworld in Avengers Secret Wars, like, this could be the biggest film ever. It could happen. I'm sure that Marvel and MCU are looking at this, like, Marvel Studios looking at this, that it will hopefully do so, but we'll see. So that's my favourite film of all time, Avengers Endgame. Very, very basic, very easy, but I absolutely adore it. I love it. The Portals music is probably one of my most listened to pieces of music anywhere, ever. And he's also asked me, guilty pleasure film. Guilty pleasure film. Now, when you ask me this, I know you're digging for something a bit embarrassing. I know what you're looking for, and that's fine. And some of you may think that this is embarrassing. I'm not sure, but the moment I read this, I have to be real to myself as to what my guilty pleasure film is. And a lot of you are going to be like, what are you on about? But this is going to sum up. When I say that I am a Fast and Furious fan, I love it. And my guilty pleasure is Too Fast, Too Furious. It's one of my favourite films of all time as well. It really is. And like, don't get me wrong, like, it's not a go-to, it's not a staple anymore. But like, growing up, when I was probably like 14, 15, 16, this was an absolute staple film for me. I loved it. I loved the cars, I loved the characters, I loved the plot, and it's so ridiculous. And that's just it. But you know what? Fast and Furious has built an amazing franchise, quite frankly, off the back of films like this that realistically are not that realistic. But you know what? They're good fun. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of kind of actual street racing. I always enjoyed the actual genuine street racing elements from the earlier films. So my guilty pleasure film is Too Fast, Too Furious. And a lot of you are like, what on earth are you? But anyway, moving on. So next question is from Mark Petrie 3. So he's asked me, if Disney opened a fifth gate, what theming would I like? And the only condition is no Marvel. Well, it's because he knows I would say Marvel straight away. I think, and I always try and answer these realistically as well, like, obviously I want things that I want, but I've also got to think realistic to what they might actually do. But what would I want? I would look at their biggest properties, and I would look at which ones are current, relevant, and likely to appear in a park. If they did a fifth gate, without a shadow of a doubt, you've got to do Arendelle. You've got to do Frozen. It's got to happen, because I feel like the sheer scale and things like having the Ice Palace and stuff like that, like, it is a no-brainer for me that you can make something like that such an icon of the park as well. Like, we always think of all of these parks and they've got such an iconic part of them, but I think you could make something like that such an icon in this kind of park. So for me, you know, if that were a theming that I could pick, and realistically, they probably wouldn't theme an entire park to one thing, but that would be one of the main things, would be Frozen. I would probably almost do like, I think of like the big modern films for Disney, and I would do like a Frozen section. I'd love to see like a Tangled section. I'd love to see a Brave section, and I'd love to see like a Moana section. So if you could do something around all four of those, for me, that would be such a shout. I think that those four films and the characters in those films could be so celebrated that they could honestly be exceptional. But that's where I would go. I know not for everyone, but that is realistic to what I think Disney actually could and would do as well. So next question is from Lorna Clark, an absolute legend. So if anyone has seen Lorna on Instagram, like, you know, she's gone through such a journey. So like an absolute legend and such a supporter of the Instagram and the podcast. So thank you so much to Lorna, and to her partner Steve as well, an absolute legend. And she has asked me, if you could ask Walt Disney anything, what would it be? If I could ask Walt Disney anything, what would it be? Well, there's a lot of things, isn't there? Like, if I could ask him one thing right now, do you know what? This is a bit left field, but like, if I could ask him right now, I would ask him, is he happy with what Disney is now? Like, is this in his vision? And I know that they've always tried to keep to what Walt Disney's vision is and was. Is he, you know, do you know what I mean? Do you know where I'm coming from here? Like, is he happy with the way that it's now gone? And I appreciate that the world and media and entertainment has changed a lot over the years. So there's a lot to have changed. And I appreciate that, like, you know, culture, society, all these kind of things have changed. But I'd just be so intrigued to know, does this still have like the core values to what he saw when he envisioned these parks and this company? It's a great question. It's a real thinker. It really, really is. And she's asked me another question as well. She said, if you can ride only one Disney or Universal ride for the rest of my life, what is it? One ride. I've only got one. I mean, this is tough because there's so many rides that I absolutely love. And you know what? I've got to go for one that is just going to always, without a doubt, give me like all of the feels. And I've got to go Guardians Cosmic Rewind. And this is a bit of a cop-out because I'm thinking, if I can go on that ride, then I get 6 different experiences depending on which songs you get and when. So Guardians Cosmic Rewind, and genuinely, like, obviously I know that Guardians, Hagrid's, Velocicoaster are always right up there for me. But I think that Guardians, in terms of its re-rideability, in terms of it being different, and I appreciate that some of the songs obviously aren't as good as others, so that is a factor. But if I were to pick a ride, I would go Guardians. And then she's asked me one final question, and it's, if you could interview anyone for the pod, who would it be? Oh, it's the big one, isn't it? It's the big one. If I could, one person. And again, I'll always answer this what I deem to be fairly realistic. You know, I think of like, your instant is to go to celebrity. That's like your immediate. Then I know a lot of people go like Walt Disney. A lot of people will think of like people related to Disney. There's so many, but like, I've got to think of who I like, who I would love to hear from, who has strong links to Disney, has strong links to things I like doing, strong links to media that I engage with and content I like. I go Ryan Reynolds. I think the guy is hilarious. I think he's absolutely hilarious. He would be the top of my list. He really would, because, you know, we're talking about films in general. We're talking about Marvel. We're talking about things such as like owning a football club, because I'm a big football fan as well. Like, there's a lot of things that I would love to talk to him about in different categories. Like, so that would be my way to go. I know that's probably like such a super simple cop-out answer, but yeah, for me, Ryan Reynolds would be the one. I think we'd have a laugh, you know. I mean, it'd be good fun. So it's a great question, great shout. On to the next question. So next question is from Beth in Paradise. And she has asked me, do you have any trips planned for 2025? And is there an Epic Universe trip planned? Okay, so I'm not doing a trip announcement right now. But what I will tell you is that I am going next year. Okay? 100%. It's not a question, because it is happening. 2025, we are going. Are we going to Epic Universe? Yes. I haven't booked a ticket yet. So I say yes. I mean, we're going to get a ticket. It's going to happen. All right? Just watch this space. For the next week or two, watch this space, because we are going. When we're going, you're going to know pretty soon. Are we going to do Epic Universe? Yes, but I'm not 100% sure when. So I apologise to be really cryptic, but it'll be worth it. So we'll see. But absolutely, like, obviously I want to bring, all of the most current and up-to-date content I can possibly bring to all of you guys. So, if that's a good excuse for me to go back out to Orlando again, then I'm all over it. So, yeah, great question, great shout, and we will reconvene on this question in the next few weeks. Trust me on that one. We have got another question from Jojo Mostly Braden, and their question is winging it or itinerary for my December-January trip. Well, I love an itinerary. So quite realistically, me and Annie have sat down. We've had a little look at what days we're there, what time we've got, what our must-dos are in all of the parks and all of the days. We've working around what our diner reservations are as well. So realistically, to an extent, we have an itinerary. However, we basically we have one day in each park. We have basically got to get the most out of each day in each park because of time. We've only got the time that we're there, so we're going to have to try and make the most of it. So, for example, Magic Kingdom, we'll get their rope drop. We will. And we realistically, there's so much we want to do in the parks. Do I have it itinerized? Realistically, no, because I don't know what the crowd level is going to be like. I feel like they're going to be wild for a start. So I feel like it's going to be really difficult to actually try and plan things. I think it's going to be a little bit more, we get there as early as we can get there. We have to be a bit patient, but we also have in our minds what our non-negotiable stuff is. So we've got our non-negotiables. Those are locked in. We'll go and do those as a priority. And then everything else that we can fit in around that is gonna basically happen when it happens. So to answer your question, we don't have a firm itinerary, but we are definitely going to the parks that we've set for each day on the days that we've locked in. Nothing's realistically going to change those because of things like the diner reservations that we've got locked in. So we've got a bit of an itinerary, basically. Great question. I love it. Next question is from Peter in the Parks, and he has asked me, would I do Disneyland Paris? Yes. There you go. Absolutely. To elaborate on it a little bit more, yeah, I really want to go to DLP. Okay, so I really want to go to the park. There's a couple of factors. Number one is cost. Number two is because of cost, I struggle personally to look past Walt Disney World, to look past Orlando, because if I'm basically going to be spending this kind of money, I then end up justifying going to Orlando instead. And this has happened for years, but I do really want to go. I appreciate that DLP is a very different experience, and I'm very excited and I'm very up for seeing that. If I can make it happen, it happens next year. All right, there is no doubt in my mind. If I can make it happen, and ultimately, it does come down to being able to afford it, being able to fit it in as well around life. So we'll see. But to answer your question, yes. Absolutely, 100%, I would absolutely go to Disneyland Paris in a heartbeat. It's a great question from Peter, so I appreciate that one. So next question that I have got is from Travelling with Ash, and they've asked me, without Orlando or any theme park related holiday, what's a bucket list destination? Oh, it's a shout. It is such a shout. I think of like, okay, straight off the bat, bucket list destination, New Zealand. And New Zealand, as a country, I will be honest with you, like, I don't know a lot about it. But the thing that draws me is I love Lord of the Rings. I absolutely love it. So if I could go there and see like all of the bits from like the Shire and stuff like that, all over it. Like it's an easy shout for me because I obviously quite clearly love film. So if I get the opportunity to go and see stuff from the films, I am there. I think that would be really, really high up there. There are other destinations as well. I really want to do, there's quite a lot of places in America I'd really like to do as well. I really want to do New York. Again, that might be on the list for next year. And there's a lot on the list for next year, by the way. I really would like to do Vegas at some point. And also, like, this might sound a little bit weird, but for any of you, some of you might know, some of you might not. You'll see it when we go in the vlogs. I wear a brand called Alpha Leak quite a lot. And there's a guy I followed on YouTube. So basically, he's one of the people who's inspired me as much as anything to create content. He's been a big YouTuber, like a big fitness influence, and he, long story short, has got a gym in Texas, and I'd love to go there. And it's not just like a small, like, little gym in your town. This place is called Alpha Land. So this is to give you an idea. It's basically, this is meant to be the Disneyland of gyms. So I would love to go there. That would be right up there as well. So yeah, I've got a few places I want to go, but top of the list probably to go and see the stuff from Lord of the Rings. And we've got another question from Travelling with Ash as well, and it is, what is my go-to meal deal? This is such a shout. These are the kind of questions that I was expecting when saying that basically this Q&A was like open for anything. I love it. I absolutely love stuff like this. So this is kind of easy for me, by the way. So I'm a bargain hunter. If I can find a bargain, I'm all over it. Well, a meal deal is the price that it is. However, I will always try and get the most bang for my buck. You've all heard me say that a lot with regards to rides, but I will do the same for food. So they call it the breakfast triple. I think it's the breakfast triple. The one where you get 3 sandwiches as opposed to 2, like 3 halves. Go for that one because you get the most in it. So if you get that as the snack, I would always go the sausage roll because the sausage roll is way more substantial than any of the other offerings, in my opinion. And to be honest with you, it baffles me that it is a snack. And then the drink, I will always go for a Monster Ultra. Yeah, I've been a big Monster Ultra fan for a long time. Like, from the days when it only ever used to just be a white Monster. Like, so it's been a while. Big energy drink fan. So we'll see that in the vlogs as well pretty soon. But it's a great question. I loved it. I laughed so much when I saw this come up. So absolutely love this one. Thank you for that. Next one, we've got 3 questions from an absolute legend. So if any of you know him from Instagram, it's a guy called Nick Carter. He is spot on, and he's just come back from a trip to Orlando. I think he's been twice in like the last 2 months. He's smashing it, like absolute legend. He really is. So he's asked me 3 questions, and he has asked me, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get to Orlando in the upcoming trip? Right, there's 2 things. And this is time dependent. The issue is, originally when I booked the flight, it was 11 a.m. Cool, 11 a.m. is not too bad because you can get there in good time. You can get to your hotel, like get through the airport, get your car, get to the hotel, then go back out. However, they've moved mine, or they did move it to like just gone 1 o'clock. So if there's any delays, we're going to be looking at getting there a bit late, which is not ideal. However, if we do get there in good time, there's 2 things I want to do on night 1. I'd love to go to Walmart, and I'd love to go to Disney Springs and go to Blaze. I don't think I'll get both done. If I'm absolutely honest, I think I'm going to have to pick one of the 2. It depends what time we get there. It depends how long it takes to get through the airport, and it depends realistically how we feel as well. So I've got to keep all of that in mind, but if I've got an option, it's one of those, depending on how we're feeling. So we'll see what I get around to. Ultimately, might not do anything. Like, if we have an absolute nightmare travel day and then get there and don't feel like doing a lot, then I'm not going to force it. Like we'll just do what makes us feel good at the time. So that's the answer for that one. And he's gone in. He's absolutely gone in on me for my football team. So for any of you who might not know, and I'm just about to lose half of my my followers here, I am a massive Man United fan. They are my team. They have been my team for 26 years at this point, and will continue to be my team. And he's asked me a couple of questions, kind of linking to both my two passions being kind of Orlando and Man United. So the first question he's asked me is, would I rather see United back to winning ways or have Marvel at Disney and Orlando? When I saw this come through, I just thought, you're like, what a legend. Because he knows me well enough to know that this is so difficult. Like, this is so tough. But you know what? Like, I've thought about this for a few days, and I've flipped between the two a bit. I will be honest with you, but I've got to be true to myself. And if it was down to me, United are back on top. I'm sorry, guys, but I've got to. Like, this is a club. I've followed this club for 26 years. 26 years of my life. Like, I am so committed and so invested in this football club at this point. And I'll be real with you, my childhood growing up was an absolute dream, because I supported Man United for probably, what was it, like 16, 17 years while we were so on top. And now we really, really aren't. And it's been a good few years at this point of absolute pain and hurt. It has. And I'm ready for that to end, because religiously I will still watch every single game and I will still support Man United exactly the same as I did 15 years ago. Nothing's changed. Like, I still support them in exactly the same way. And don't be wrong, I really want Marvel in Orlando, but I'm living without it. I can live without it. That doesn't pain me as much as it does seeing Man United being rubbish. Like, so it's a great one, but that is my answer. And his final question is, what's worse, supporting Man United or spending 24 hours non-stop stuck on a small world? Thanks, mate. I don't even think it's a question. I think it's just a dig. Yeah, fair enough. Fair play. Yeah, you got me. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a painful experience. Both of those are clearly painful experiences. But I would rather go through the turmoil of being a Man United fan. Thank you. But yeah, no, absolute legend. So if anyone knows Nick or is following him, then, or if you're not following Nick at the moment on Instagram, go and check him out. He's Nick_Carter.88 on Instagram. Great guy. Absolutely fantastic. Next question is from Mouse and Globe, and he's asked me if you could go back to any era of both Disney and Universal, which ones would it be? Any era. I mean, this is an easy one. Like, I go back to the era. It's Universal. It's Universal first and foremost, and the era I go back to is that era of Jaws, Back to the Future, Twister. Like, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer for me, because that is what made me personally fall in love with film, fall in love with Orlando, fall in love with Universal. So it's a really great question. It really, really is. But that kind of golden generation is what I'm going to coin it as. That golden generation of just really, really nostalgic Universal it's so top tier. It really is. And honestly, I don't think there would be anyone who would be disappointed if they brought back one of those rides or attractions nowadays. I mean, everyone would be buzzing for it. It's a great question. And also, just to touch on Mouse and Globe, Andy from Mouse and Globe, he has been so supportive of the podcast. So I really appreciate him. I really do. He's a great guy. And if, he's mentioned a lot of times that he's planning on kind of like, launching Mouse and Globe fully. And I'm excited for it, because, he really is a fantastic person, and his support is for not just myself, but for a lot of other channels is brilliant. And it's so nice to see anyone giving so much support and love to other channels. So Mouse and Globe, absolutely top guy. We've got another question from Lorna as well, actually. And Lorna's asked me, if I worked at Disney or Universal as like a cast member, what job would I do? Do you know what? This is so difficult, but this is such a weird one. But the thing that comes to my head, and this is baffling, by the way, I'd quite like to work on Fast and Furious. I kind of want to be one of those people because I actually think that you can have so much fun with that role. I think that you can actually, like, you can probably be the highlight of that ride for everyone. Like, I feel like you get an opportunity for about 2 minutes to just be quite funny. And I'm kind of here for that. I know it's a totally random and left field shout, but you know what? I'm going to stick with it. I think that it's a tough gig. I think it really is, because you basically get like a room full of people come in front of you with videos playing in the background, and you have to react to these videos as they kind of happen. I think it's really unique, and I think that obviously the ride is rubbish, but I think that part of the attraction can be really, really good fun. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Fast and Furious. What is going on? Next question I've got is from Lenny Loveridge, absolute top guy. And he's asked, will I visit SeaWorld or Discovery Cove on my next trip? I'm not going to be going in December because I literally don't have time. Next year, so we are going next year, that's locked in. I will be real, and he is not that keen on going to SeaWorld, and all I can do is respect that. That's fine. Will I go? It's difficult because it's time. If I get the time, I'll go to SeaWorld. I'll quite happily go on my own. I'm like, I love the park. I love the attractions in the park. I love the roller coasters in the park. So they are fantastic. They really are. And you know what? Like, I'll be back there before long. I'll be back there, and I really want to go Busch Gardens again as well. So we'll see what happens. But realistically, we're not going to be going on this trip coming up. And next year's trip with myself and Annie at the moment, we'll see what happens. I don't know at the moment, so I can't really answer it. But you know, ultimately, if there were any other trips on the cards, which you know there might just be, then there would be more opportunity and more chance for me to do so. So we'll see what happens. Great question. I really like it. Good man. Next up, we've got Annie Stores. So we've got 3 questions from Annie, and she's asked me, first and foremost, when's my Disney cruise booked for? It's not yet. It's not yet. I'd have told you, to be fair. You'd have been the first person I'd told. I loved recording with Annie. I really did. She was wonderful to talk about Disney cruises with. It was such a fun episode. I absolutely loved it. And I loved like kind of learning more about Disney cruises as well from someone who's been on these cruises, you know, quite a lot more frequently than I would probably argue other people. But she was wonderful to chat with. And, you know, the question being, when's it booked for? It's not booked yet. Again, this is what I mean, because next year is going to go off. Because realistically, obviously, we're there for a few days at the beginning of the year. We've got another trip lined up. Okay, so there is another Orlando trip lined up as well. Then we've got DLP. Then we've got Disney Cruise. There's a lot going on. Can I fit it all in 1 year? I'm not sure. Am I going to have to prioritise stuff? Absolutely. And am I going to have to be sensible? Absolutely. We'll see what happens. We're definitely going to go on one at some point. All right? Like, hands down, categorically, it's going to happen. We both really want to do it. I think it looks amazing. I'm excited to do it. So just watch this space again. All right? It's a great question. Good shout. She's asked me, what would I warn a first timer off of doing? Now, I reckon she means a ride, but I'm not sure. Like, I'll give 2 answers. I would warn any first timer off of thinking that you're going to do everything, because it ain't going to happen. And also, it ends up being a stressful experience because you're trying to fit too much in a short amount of time. You will not get everything done in your first trip to Orlando in 1 trip. We all know this. That's why we keep going back. But if I were to warn anyone off doing a ride as well, so maybe it's like you've got a certain amount of days and you've got to prioritise, and if I were to be like, you know what, I would pass on that ride for this trip, what would I do? I mean, to be honest with you, and I know this feels like a bit of a cop-out, but like Fast and Furious. I genuinely, I think that's probably about the one thing that I would turn around to anyone and say, if you can miss anything, skip Fast and Furious. Disney, I think, is a lot more difficult because I feel like Disney appeals to a lot of people, and I honestly couldn't turn around and say that I would skip anything. Like, I know that I'm not a huge fan of It's a Small World, but I would never turn around to anyone and say, don't do it. Like, if you've gone on it, made your mind up yourself and gone, I think this is rubbish, then it's different, isn't it? But like, I can't tell you my opinion being it's not for me and say, because of that, don't do it. Like, so the only thing I can absolutely categorically say I probably wouldn't do it is Fast and Furious. Apologies. And I'm a big Fast and Furious fan, as we've established from the start of the episode. And the other question she's asked me is, what would I recommend for a first timer? So recommendations, I'll give 2 answers as well. My recommendations is do your research. So absolutely do your research before you turn up. Because if you turn up and try and wing these parks, you are going to get nothing done. Like, you're just not. You need to plan. We all know this at this point. You've got a plan. You've got to go in with your priorities. You've got to, like, sort out what stuff you're going to do. And if I were to recommend, like, a ride, Guardians. I would recommend work out how to do that virtual queue. Get that nailed down. Get in that virtual queue and do Guardians. That would be top of my list. Obviously, things like Velocicoaster and Hagrid's, but I appreciate that they're not always for everyone, so I do get that. But if I were to pick one ride that would kind of appeal to a wider audience as a recommendation, I say Guardians Cosmic Rewind, hands down. Great questions, I love those. And next up, we've got the next question we've got is from Lauren at Disney Dreaming 91 on Instagram. Lauren's fantastic, she really is. And she's asked me, can you please explain your obsession with Doctor Doom in Islands of Adventure? So it's funny because when you said this, I had to think for a second and be like, what is it? What is it about Doctor Doom that like actually makes me love it? There's a few things. Like, I love the character for a start. Obviously, massively into Marvel for first and foremost. I absolutely love the character. I love the aesthetic of the ride. I think that the ride looks fantastic, in my opinion. I think it's a wonderful looking ride. And then I've got to think back to what made me go on this ride the first time. I didn't go on this ride until 2016. And I will be absolutely honest with you, I never used to like a drop tower. I used to hate them. But I went with 2 of my friends, and the 3 of us went. We stayed at a Rosen Inn on International Drive just because, you know, we were fairly young, quite a cheap trip. And from our hotel room, we could see a little bit of Universal, and we could see Doctor Doom. So every single night we'd kind of come back to the room from doing whatever we were doing, and you'd like see the lights lit up on Doctor Doom, and we'd be like, that looks wicked. And then one day we decided, you know what, should we go and do it at night? And then we went and did it, and the 3 of us were absolutely like, we loved it. And I think for me, I love the ride. I think the ride itself is funny. It makes me laugh. But I hold a huge amount of nostalgia to that trip because it's one of my favourite trips with 2 of my best friends. And the 3 of us were just so obsessed with this ride that, you know, it's just become like such a running thing. And you know what? There wouldn't be a trip that I wouldn't go on this ride. I adore it. I genuinely do. And this isn't just a joke. Like, I love this ride. I love the character. I love the aesthetic of it. And do you know what? When everyone shares on Instagram and says that they're like, sends a picture of them outside the ride or of the ride itself, like, I love it. I absolutely love it. It makes my day every single time. So keep doing it. Because honestly, it puts a smile on my face every single time someone does it. It's a great question. So next question I've got is from Wookiees on Tour. So you'll all know Wookiees on Tour from the guest episode a couple of months ago. I had Dom on, absolutely top guy. And he's asked me, how do you feel about first time vlogging? And have I had that awkward practice yet? I'm kind of all right with it, you know. I'm kind of ready for it. I'm fairly confident in front of the camera, and I'm not too phased by it. Don't get me wrong, I'm in the confines of my own little mini office here at home where I do my recording. The moment I take this camera, pick it up, and then go and stand in the middle of an airport and start doing it, it might be a different thing. But but realistically, I just enjoy kind of like trying to make content, but I also enjoy, you know, talking about this so much that I'm just excited. I feel so ready for it as well. Like I'm just excited to share my experiences with all of you guys, but also just to be able to watch it back myself is something that I'm honestly buzzing for. And in terms of like awkward practices, like, you know what? I love a plan, but I think I'm just straight off the bat just gonna run with it, you know. Like maybe my vlogs will end up just being an absolute mess. We'll see. But you know what? I feel like I've got like my little intro kind of sorted with you guys as it is, and you know I'm fortunate that obviously with the podcast I get a lot of practice in terms of just talking and talking at the camera as well at times. So it is exciting. I can't wait to do it, and in 2 weeks' time I'll be there in Disney with my camera talking to you guys. So, you know, honestly, I am absolutely buzzing for it. Next question. And he appeared on my last one, actually, with a bit of a weird question. And it's the return of my brother. Cheers, mate. Yeah, Tom has asked me, can you ride Popeyes for 24 hours with no food and drink? What? Can I? One, no, because the park's shut. So... But hypothetically, could I do it? No, I don't think I could. Like, I'd just be a prune. I'd be so wet. You'd be wet. You'd be like freezing cold. I'm sure eventually it would be so horrendously uncomfortable in those little plastic seats. And just like getting sprayed in the face constantly for 24 hours. It sounds like torture. I don't really want to go 24 hours without food and drink doing anything, let alone sat on that, to be honest. So it's an interesting question, and it's a bit of a thinker, but no, I don't think I could. Next question we've got is from Rosie, Theme Park Traveller. And anyone who's listened to my episode with Rosie from a couple of weeks ago, the Ambion episode, she is absolutely brilliant. So please do go and check her Instagram out. She's fantastic. And she's asked me, what are the plans for New Year's Eve at Epcot? What do I hope to eat, see and ride? So we're gonna be in Epcot all day. And it's going to be a long day in Epcot. But you know what? We're kind of embracing it. So the way we're looking at it is we're just going to get there and we're realistic. We're going to do that entire park. We'll probably do it a couple of times over because we are going to be in there a long time. And obviously the fireworks aren't going to be till midnight. So there's a lot of time to do stuff, which is great. We don't have a dining reservation or anything like that in the park. So I think we're going to just kind of take it fairly slow around World Showcase. I think we're going to take a bit of a mooch, have a little walk around, just kind of see what there is, you know. Like, there's nothing in particular that we're like, I've got to go and eat or drink this in Epcot, if I'm honest. There's quite a few rides that we want to do. Obviously, Guardians, hopefully, I'm hoping that we can get on Guardians a couple of times that day. I'm hoping if we can get on the virtual queue first thing in the morning, and then maybe we can get on one later in the day as well. I'm not sure. We'll see what the setup is, but I'd love to do that. Obviously, we're both big fans of Frozen, so we'll definitely be going on that. And you know what? There's a lot of other stuff and rides in the park that we'd love to do, but in terms of the priorities, that's the kind of two. Bit of free caballeros with a margarita, just a few minutes before wouldn't go amiss. But we're both very excited for Epcot on New Year's Eve. I think it'll be a really exciting evening in the park, and a very unique experience as well. Rosie's asked me another question, and it was, how did I come up with this scavenger hunt trip reveal? So, I came up with this idea a long time ago. So basically, when I booked this trip, I came up with the idea. So I booked this trip in April, and this isn't a unique idea to me. Like, other people have done trip reveals before. I think of like Tom and Jess at T&J Travels. Tom did a trip reveal, but I wanted to do mine different. I wanted to do it unique. I wanted to do it stuff that was unique to myself and Annie as well. And like, we do quite a lot of escape rooms. We like to do things like puzzles and stuff like that, and games. And obviously we have a shared love for Disney. So I've kind of wanted to just incorporate all of that into one thing. And you know what? I loved doing it. And the main thing is that Annie enjoyed it as well. And obviously, I can't remember if I said this in a video. She didn't know what I was recording it for. Like, it wasn't a setup or anything like that. Like, it was genuine, all of it. Like, I basically lied to her and told her that I was recording it for her brother to watch us do this escape room, because we normally do escape rooms with Annie's brother and his partner. And I was basically like, oh, they wanted to be here tonight to do it, but they couldn't get here. So they've asked if we can record it for them. And she was like, yeah, okay, let's go for it. And obviously at that point, I'm like, here we go. Obviously afterwards, I did say to Annie, like, once I'd explained it all, I was like, don't have to upload this video if you're not happy with it, any of that kind of stuff. And she was so cool with it. So, I'm grateful that, we had an amazing time and good fun doing it. And I'm glad that you all enjoyed it as well. It was a truly unique experience, and I am so happy it went as well as it did. Next up, we've got quite a few questions from Jade at Time for Jade, and genuinely, anyone in this community, if you don't follow Jade, like, please stop listening to the podcast right this second and go and follow her. Because if you want anyone to be just an absolute pillar and so supportive and positive and funny and just like engaging with everything, you will not get anyone more so than Jade. She is absolutely brilliant, and genuinely, I loved our first episode. It's one of my favourite episodes, and I loved doing the Free Caballeros one with Jade and Lee. We had such a fun time recording it, and genuinely, I feel very lucky to be able to call her a friend, because she is a wonderful person. And honestly, please do go and show her some love, because she's got a fabulous Instagram. She really, really has. And she's asked me some great questions. So she's gone across the board. So first thing she's asked me is, favourite summer activity? I mean, going on holiday is right up there. I love a holiday. I love a holiday, like, we went to Greece this year. I went to Mallorca. I normally go to Mallorca every year with my friends. I love a summer holiday, but also I think of like a summer activity that is like probably not holidays. I love a barbecue. I love a barbecue, like, at home. Do you know what I mean? Like, when it's actually hot and the sun's out and you're in your garden, or like, friend or family garden, having a barbecue. I think it's right up there. So that's my favourite summer activity, I reckon. Halloween or Christmas? I go Christmas. For me, I love Christmas. I'll be honest with you, I don't feel hugely festive at the moment, just because I've been absolutely like flat out busy with life. But if I were to pick between the two, I would go Christmas personally. I feel like there's a lot more build up to it. I feel like there's a lot more kind of going on with Christmas personally. I appreciate that, that Halloween is bigger in the US. I don't tend to do a huge amount for Halloween, if I'm absolutely honest with you. I've never really got the bug, but I appreciate why people do, and I understand it. So for me, it's Christmas. So the next question she's asked me is dream holiday destination. And it's similar to the question I had earlier, which was kind of like, if I could visit anywhere. And it's really tough, because my dream holiday destination totally is Orlando. Like, if I think of anywhere, it's top of the list every time. So it's really tough. But I mean, like, there was those three other ones I mentioned. I really would like to do Las Vegas. I really would like to do New York. And I really want to go to this to this gym in Sugar Land, Texas, which means nothing to a lot of you. Like, if it means anything to anyone, like, please do message me, because we'll have a great chat about Alphalete and Alpha Land. But that for me is right up there, because that's been a huge part of my life, to be honest with you, for quite a few years. So yeah, so for anyone who knows more about like what I've done in my kind of like personal life and working life as well, you'll understand and appreciate why that is somewhere that's really quite high on my kind of priorities as well. Next questions he's asked me is 5 things I can't live without. Phone, number 1, can't live without that. My laptop, because the podcast. My microphone, because the podcast. It's really difficult, because I'm like, does food count? If I don't pick food, then I've got a bit of an issue. I'm assuming I get all those kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm picking the simple stuff. It's phone, it's laptop, it's microphone, it's TV, because I need to be able to watch Man United, and it's car or van, because it's my way of getting around. So I mean, that'll give you an insight to what I do as well. But yeah, so without all those, I can't operate very well. So I need all of them. So it's a really, really boring answer and very sensible, but that is the answer to that question. And the final question Jade has asked me is, we heard E.T. is my favourite ride, so please tell us why. Well, I think what Jade's actually getting at is that E.T. quite clearly isn't my favourite ride. I'll talk about it. In my opinion, E.T. is an average ride. It is nostalgic, and it holds a lot of nostalgia for me, as I've said previously, a lot more than I ever thought. But the ride itself is very average. And you know what? It baffles me a little bit, because this is a very old film, and it somehow managed to like just remain such a big part in people's lives that it's remained in this park. And you know what? I kind of love that. I kind of love that so many people are behind this ride, and that Universal kind of daren't touch it, because the nostalgia on it is so strong. So, you know what? It might not be my favourite ride, but I don't think I've ever done a Universal trip and not gone on it. I'm being honest with you. I genuinely don't think I've ever done a trip and not been on this ride. So it might not be anywhere near the top of my list, but it still clearly holds quite a big part in my heart personally. So those are the questions from Jade, and once again, like, thank you so much to Jade for sending those, because she is absolutely brilliant, and please do go and check her Instagram out. She's fantastic. And I've got a couple more questions. We've got one from Chris Roosevelt's chatter. Chris, another absolute legend. I loved our DLP episode. That was fantastic. And he has asked me, what is my podcasting goal for 2025? And he also put, it's been a pleasure getting to know me. And it's straight back at you, Chris. You're an absolutely fantastic guy. And I feel very lucky to be able to call you a friend. I think that, you know, with a lot of the people I've met through this amazing platform, that a lot of you, I'm so fortunate to call you friends, because, you know, we've had an opportunity to talk to each other about something that we love and we've got passion for, but then we've got so many other likes and interests as well. And everyone's so kind and so personable that I'm just so grateful for all of you. And Chris especially, like, what an absolutely great guy. And you know what? I've had many chats with Chris, and not just about like Disney or Orlando, but like we kind of delve into like Marvel, Star Wars, beyond that as well. So great guy. And what is the goal for 2025? When I say, and I say this every now and then, that we're just getting started, I mean it. Like, the podcast, first and foremost, that is me. That's my thing. That is what I love doing. And obviously, you know, I do want to expand on that. I want to expand on that with the YouTube. And, you know, it's weighing up the Instagram, the YouTube, and the podcast at the same time. So it's trying to make all of those kind of like coincide with each other. And with the podcast especially, if I can just keep getting more amazing guests on the podcast and keep putting out content that you all enjoy listening to, then I'm absolutely doing everything that I can do to keep making this such a special place to be. And you know what? And I've had quite a lot of people say it to me, so I don't feel like kind of out of place or arrogant in saying it, but I have managed to kind of unite this community even more by being the person that gets you all together in one place. Like, one of my main things with regards to getting guests on the podcast is that I want to be able to share your content. Like, those episodes, they're never about me. They have never been about me. They are about you. That's why I call them your episode. Like, obviously, you know, it's got my logo on it and stuff like that because, you know, I'm the one editing it. I'm the one who's hosting it. But ultimately, they are your episode. So that's why I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your experiences. I want to talk about what it is you like doing. And if I can just keep doing that, then I'm winning. I'll be so happy to keep doing that. So I appreciate you all. I really, really do. And the final question is from KK507. And she's asked me, I'd love to know how you met your girlfriend. So how did I meet Annie? Well, we met each other online, as you do nowadays. We've been together now for coming up 5.5 years, just under that. So, you know, it's been a little while. Obviously, in that time, we've quite early on in our kind of relationship, we lived through COVID, which was, you know, quite early doors in terms of like when we were together. We've been lucky enough to go on, you know, quite a lot of exciting trips together. We love going on like adventures and holidays and stuff like that. We've been snowboarding together, I think 3 times. I think it's 3 times. So we quite enjoy doing that. Obviously, I've never kind of shared that with the pod. So we've done that. We've been on various holidays. Obviously, we've been to Orlando. Myself and Annie at this point, in terms of us being together, we've only been to Orlando together once. So this will be Annie's second time going as an adult. And, you know, this is obviously multiple times for me, but it's so nice to kind of see and experience this through her eyes a little bit as well. So, yeah, I'm excited for Annie to be obviously on the vlogs, and, you know, in what capacity is entirely up to her. Like, if she wants to be like front and center and wants to be on, you know, loads of camera time, then cool. If she's not as keen and just kind of like wants to be in the background, or just like me to be recording on my own, like when I do stuff, then whatever way it works, then I'm absolutely cool and I'm easy with it. So, you know what, like, she's an absolute legend. She is, and I think you probably all saw that from the reveal video that she is absolutely brilliant and is just so wonderful and just loves a laugh as well, which is obviously what I'm all about. So, yeah. So the next question I've got is from James at Snacks, Beers and Mickey Ears. What a guy. What a guy. I've said this many, many times. He's absolutely spot on. He's a legend. And, you know, I absolutely love chatting with James. And we need to get another episode in at some point. We 100% do, and we will. It's on the cards, and I just want to be able to chat with James again because we had so much fun recording the first episode that we did. And his question is, how has the way that you visit and enjoy the parks evolved from your first visits to now? And what was the most recent evolution or change in your preferences? Well, when I originally used to visit, obviously, like when I first went, I always go with my family. So that was kind of like a different way of approaching it anyway, because obviously, like, whatever I wanted to do wasn't necessarily dictated by me. And then I went through kind of like an era of going with like my friends, and we were very, very into coasters. So we were big time, just like we were there for the big rides, the thrill rides, and that was it. So there was that. And then now I feel like I'm very much I'm using Taylor Swift there. I'm very much in my appreciation era. I feel like I'm very much in this kind of zone where I'm actually like taking stuff in. I'm actually starting to appreciate more about parks than just the rides. And, you know, whether or not that's food, drinks, or also just like being in a park and like chilling. But I think that is the most recent evolution. Just actually And it probably comes with age as well, just kind of growing up a little bit and just actually taking a bit more time to actually kind of take a step back and just enjoy being there. There's always an appreciation of getting all the way to Orlando because it's such a big trip. But in terms of actually like being there and just soaking it all in, that's probably the most recent evolution, I would say. It's a great question. It really is. So appreciate you again, James. It's a fantastic question. On to the next one. So the final 3 questions I've got are actually from Ashley and Emma. So Ashley and Emma have sent me some questions and they've asked me if there was any Christmas film that I could put into any theme park attraction, what would it be and why? You know what? This is tough because I've got to think of something that kind of would stand up being there all the time. And there was one thing that I thought of, and I don't know if this is a cop-out, but I'm going Nightmare Before Christmas. And the reason why is because I'm not 100% sure if this is a Christmas film. I'm not 100% sure if it's a Halloween film. I'm not really sure where it lies, but some people will argue one, some people will argue the other. So I'm going to just class it as a Christmas film. But I would go for that because I think the aesthetic of it could be really unique. I feel like that could be a really cool thing to translate into a ride. So that's where I would go. I'd go Nightmare Before Christmas. Next question is one traditional Christmas treat to a theme park and why? And I've got to think of stuff that I like. And you know what one of my favourite things is at Christmas? I love a chocolate log. A Yule log is like top tier for me. Like absolutely top tier. So if you can do like, and I know this basically ends up being like a mini Swiss roll, but like if you could do like a mini Yule log with like a Disney or a Universal spin on it, give me that. I will be all over it. That would be absolutely me in a nutshell. So that's where I would go. I mean, that would be a unique idea as well. And the final question that Ashley and Emma have asked me is if there were a restaurant or dining experience that I could bring back to iDrive, what would it be and why? This is a great one because I think Ashley knows where I'm going, but I go Ponderosa. And the reason why is because when I was growing up, Ponderosa was a staple. It's where we always used to go as a family because it was probably because it was cheap, because it was easy, because it catered for everyone. I quite like a buffet style setup. I will be honest with you, I've been to Golden Corral a few times and like I've been in there and it's not been bad, but then I've also been in there other times and been like, not as great. I don't mean the food's bad. Like, don't get me wrong on that. I actually think the food's quite good, but the actual like the plastic plates and stuff never quite tips it for me sometimes. But if I could bring anything back, it would be Ponderosa. I think that would be such a shout. I'm pretty sure someone told me that there is a Ponderosa still located quite close. So I need to go and check this out again at some point. But just for nostalgia purposes, as much as anything, that is the somewhere that I used to go with my family all the time. So Ponderosa. And you know what? That's all the questions. That was a lot of questions. This is obviously a slightly longer episode. So you know what? I appreciate everyone who sends a question in. I really do appreciate it because, I appreciate that you've got to take time out of your day to come and ask me questions. And for everyone who listens to the podcast, everyone who shares the podcast, everyone who messages me, I appreciate all of you. And I will always get back to you if you message me on Instagram. And I appreciate that my replies on Instagram have been slower than normal. I tell you what, I'll just say it. I changed job nearly 3 months ago. I basically went out self-employed, doing my own thing. So, you know what? Life has been busy and there's been a lot going on, and juggling the podcast and keeping up the same amount of content whilst essentially starting my own business has been a lot. But you know what? We're still going. And there's an Orlando trip at the end of it to have a I was about to say a relax, it's certainly not going to be that, but to just basically switch off a little bit from some stuff and just go and enjoy Orlando in person again. So I hope you've all enjoyed this one. I really do. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will speak to you all in the next one.